Camera. Oh, fast. It's as fast as you want it to be, Trustee Alapo. Just keep that in mind. Okay, all right. Hello, Mike Kako. Welcome to the meeting on the Committee on Investments and Land Management for Wednesday, April 30th, 2025. It is now 3:03 p.m. I'm your chairperson, Keone Souza. We have Vice Chair of the John Wahe the fourth. Can we get a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Kaka?
Yep.
Trustee Akina? Trustee Alapa?
Present.
Trustee Galuteria? Chair Kahele?
Present.
Trustee Lindsay?
Present.
Vice Chair Waihe'e?
Present.
Chair Souza?
Here.
We have quorum.
All right, we have quorum. Thank you, members, for being present. I'm going to call on our kapo nui, Kehapu, at this time, if she can introduce our administrative staff joining us here today.
Mahalo, Chair. Aloha, Awina Lakako. So I have just a few of our administration with us this afternoon. We have Everett Ota, Interim General Counsel, Ryan Lee, Endowment Director, Lori Walker, our Land Director, and Kevin Chalk, our Interim IT Director. Mahalo.
Mahalo keha. All right, this meeting can be viewed via live stream on OHA's website at www.oha.org/livestream. If you'd like to testify on any agenda item during the Zoom meeting, please raise your hand when that item is announced. When called upon, please unmute yourself. You'll be given the ability to turn on your camera. During your testimony, once you're finished, we ask that you mute your microphone. We're recording today's meeting for the sole purpose of producing written minutes, which will become the official record of this meeting. I'm going to read this in anticipation of testifiers here today. Public testimony should be limited to matters listed on the meeting agenda or occur prior to any listed items in conclusion or vote. If you begin to address other issues not on today's meeting agenda, the ILM chair will call you out of order and direct you to limit your testimony to the items listed on the agenda. Testifiers' mics will be unmuted when it is your turn to testify. If you're not audible, you'll be muted. The next testifier will be called. Oral testimony online will be limited to 5 minutes. Your mic will be automatically muted once you have completed your oral testimony, or if your allotted time for testimony expires, please log off after testifying. Otherwise, staff may be forced to remove you. All right, moving on to our first item of business, and this is the approval of minutes from the Committee on Investment and Land Management dated April 2nd, 2025. Do I have a motion to approve?
Mr. Chairman, so moved.
Right on. Motion made by Trustee Wahe, seconded by Trustee Alapa. Can we get any testifiers on this item? All right, seeing none, can I get a roll call vote?
Trustee Kaka. Trustee Akina. Trustee Alapa.
Oh.
Trustee Galuteria. Chair Kahele.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Vice Chair Wahe.
Yes.
Chair Souza. Trustee Akina.
Aye.
Motion passes.
All right, members, thank you very much. Motion passes. Moving on to number 3, unfinished business. Seeing none, moving on to 4, new business. Informational briefing, recap of the April PIMCO Pacific Investment Management Company, LLC Institute Educational Seminar. So members, as you guys know that Trustee, anyone signed up to testify on this item? All right, seeing no testifiers, members, Trustee Wahe'e and I both attended the PIMCO conference. This was in Newport Beach from April 7th to the 10th, 2025. We have a whole bunch of information in here and updated information, public and private markets from PIMCO. Trustee Wahe'e, would you like to say anything?
Yes. I would say that I really enjoyed this conference, and it was really intense, almost like a college intensive. It was a lot different from other ones I've been to where it was more relaxed and casual. This one was like 9 to 5, just class after class. And when you're done, you really got a good kind of crash course on fixed income investments. So it was very good.
Yeah, I agree. It was more exclusive, more one-on-one type seminar. They maxed out at actually 100 attendees. Versus Common Fund, we know that there's more. And there's another opportunity to attend this. So we will send out those dates for trustees to be able to visit. And this was honestly our first time going to attending the PIMCO conference. Our representatives, Bill Murphy, Kevin Gray, those guys are doing a great job. They love working with Ryan Lee. They, however, did bring to our attention. I want to point out something that I thought was really, really good, and it's been running for 2 years now. It's brought it to our attention, but it's a scholarship opportunity. And basically, they allocate $2 million, and this is for underserved communities, right? And so we fall within that, the Native Hawaiian community. And basically, here, I'm going to pass this out for everyone. If you can take one, pass it down. Unfortunately, the timeline has passed to apply for this, but the application process runs from December 2nd to February 10th of that year for the scholarship opportunity to be in the next school year, right, in the fall. But there's certain criteria. I won't go over that, but Keawe and staff, I'm looking to getting you guys updated information on this, and so we can get it up on our website. To me, it's a really, really good opportunity. It's in the area of finance, and there's certain criteria for undergrads and grads as far as the scholarship goes, and it's up to $30,000 scholarships. I think it's a really, really good opportunity per person. Like I said, they allocate $2 million a year. That being said, we're gonna move on to
Wait, question on this.
yes.
Did they say
Tell me.
about how many of our Native Hawaiian keiki are served by this?
I don't
Or
quote
have
me,
they?
but the conversation that we had, because we didn't know about it,
Mhm.
I believe none so far.
Because I think this would be good to share in like Kawaii Ola,
Exactly right.
social media kind website.
So this is the current solicitation. Of course, the dates had passed. So I told Bill and Kevin to please send us the updated version that we can get on our website and kind of ahead of time. Maybe we can put something up there in anticipation of it coming out. Yes, the application is rolling once a year. But I mean, what a great opportunity.
Yeah, and would you say PIMCO, it would make sense board wide for us to attend and the differences between that and Common Fund?
There's a lot of differences, and especially the amount of money that PIMCO has versus Common Fund and the areas that they focus on, right? But yeah, for sure, I do believe it is a very, very good conference. Like I said, this was the first time, so I think we're starting to recognize and point out different opportunities for trustees to go.
Is this once a year
to-
or they have
this?
it by?
This is once a year. Actually, sorry, there's a couple of times this year that it's happening. So I think it's twice a year usually.
Same place?
It's usually in the same place because the PIMCO office building is actually in Newport Beach. So it's very convenient. It's right there. You can literally walk across to the office, and everything was held there at the office.
You guys had like private meeting kind too?
We had opportunities to have private meetings with Bill and Kevin, and so I would actually encourage trustees who have any questions, and after reviewing the material in here as well, reach out to the ILM committee, and we can sit down with Ryan as well too and get updates. Thank you guys very much. All right, we're gonna be moving on to the next item on the agenda, which is new business presentation by administration. And this is in response to the implementation of outstanding audit recommendations from report number 2304, audit of the Office of Hawaiian Affairs by the State Auditor relating to OHA real property. And is there anyone signed up to testify?
Yes, we have Jermaine Myers.
All right. Aloha, Jermaine.
Aloha, Chair.
Aloha.
You can hear me.
Yes, you're good.
Is it okay? Thank you for Aloha, Chair Souza, Vice Chair Waihe'e, and honorable trustees. My name is Jermaine Myers. I'm an OHA beneficiary for beneficiary advocacy and empowerment. I'm also a Nanakuli Hawaiian homestead lessee. Mahalo for the opportunity to speak on Agenda 4B, presentation by administration, response to the implementation of outstanding audit recommendations from report number 23-04, audit of OHA by the State Auditor relating to OHA real property. I'd like to address the first table, OHA's Board of Trustees should. I noted in OHA's response that the Hawaii Real Estate Tactical and Strategic Plan was completed. May I have a copy via UIPA request, please? OHA also stated migration and operating plans and policies, procedures to be completed July 2025. May I also have a copy of this when it's completed by July via UIPA request, please? Under 1F, criteria relating to use of each property type, example, no golf course, etc., OHA's response states, use criteria should be embedded within asset plans and be flexible over time in response to evolving market demand. 2025 implementation status, disagree, not to be completed. As a beneficiary, I would hope OHA would adopt a criteria policy that states OHA will not use any of its land assets for gaming. Example, casinos using the Indian Gaming Regulatory Act, etc. Under 1J, criteria relating to the funding of real property acquisitions, example, favorable financing, etc. OHA's response states investment and legacy lands policies to be completed July 2025. May I have a copy of it when it's completed via UIP request, please? Under number 2, develop and continually update OHA's strategic plan to include an account of OHA's program and administrative structure as required by Section 10-6 A1 HRS. OHA responded, implemented. Section 10-6 A1 HRS states OHA general duties of the board shall be to develop and continually update a strategic plan for the office that shall include but not be limited to the following. A through E followed. I bring this to trustees' attention as it was pointed out during the BAE meeting this morning by BOT Chair Kahele that OHA should update its strategic plan. I just wanted to note this is a Chapter 10 mandate to quote, continually update a strategic plan. Under number 3, develop and implement a conceptual master plan for OHA's Kaka'ako Makai lands. OHA responded, development scenario feasibility studies completed. May I also have a copy via UIPA request, please? Under number 4, develop and implement long-range plans for each real property in which OHA has an interest. OHA responded, various property asset plans completed, plans for all properties to be completed by June 2026. Again, may I have a copy of the various property asset plans that were already completed via UIPA requests? Now I'd like to address the second table. OHA's administration should. Number 7 states, develop written procedures that assign and describe the responsibilities of OHA managers and staff relating to the oversight of the stewards and management of the agreements with those stewards for use of OHA property. The purpose of the procedure should be to, among other things, monitor stewards' compliance with the terms and conditions of the agreement, including the use of property, as well as to ensure stewards to not use OHA property without a valid agreement. OHA responded, implemented. May I also have a copy of those written procedures? May I also have a copy of the written procedures implemented under number 8, number 9, and number 10? Hea kuapu, God bless all of you.
Jermaine, thank you so much. And in the room we have Laurie Walker, who's gonna give a briefing on the response to the auditor. Mahalo, Laurie.
Mahalo, Chair. Aloha, Chair Souza, Vice Chair Waihe'e, and members of the board. We sent out the materials for a high-level update on the status of OHA's implementation of the state audit recommendations that were published in 2023. Next slide, please. And I'll just recap what has occurred since the audit was published on at that time. In April 2024, the auditor followed up for updates, which we provided our response to that later that month. And then another year later, the auditor followed up earlier this month, April 2025, and we will be providing our response today. The recommendations that were reported as implemented were omitted from this formal request for information. And for everything else not reported as implemented, we've made significant strides towards overall implementation. And we're confident the recommendations will nearly all be completed by this time next year. To go over briefly what those activities were, what I neglected to include here was the convening of this ILM committee that I think has created a channel for addressing land issues. So this has been one of those activities. And in addition, we've contracted real estate consultants who have supported the completion of the Hawaii real estate tactical and strategic plans. They will be refining our tactical plan as well as a migration plan. They will also be helping us develop a business model and operating plan, policies and procedures, and to add, we also introduced the 2025 legislative bill for Kaka workforce housing. So that is a list of activities that we have completed or are in progress towards completing for the audit recommendations. If you have any questions.
Mahalo, Laurie. I'd like to thank you and your team, as well as Paul and Linda, for putting this together and the response. So mahalo nui. No questions? Mahalo members, thank you so much. We're going to move on to the next item on the agenda. All righty. All right. New business under C, informational briefing by OHA Administration Land Assets Division on Makai Lot L, 200 Keawe Street, Honolulu, Hawaii, leasing efforts. And is there anyone signed up to testify?
No one signed up.
All right, mahalo. Okay, I believe we also have Paul, who's going to join us during this presentation. Aloha, Paul.
Aloha, how are you?
Very good. What time
Thank
is it
you.
there? Is it 6 o'clock?
Yeah, 6:20.
Okay, right on. Thanks for joining us, Paul.
Yeah, and next time you're in Newport Beach, if you come to the PIMCO, let me know because that's just around the corner from our offices.
Really? Okay, wow.
Yeah. So
Right on.
we'd
Thanks,
love to we'd love to see you.
That's not on the agenda, so we're not going to be discussing that.
Fair enough. Look, I don't think I want to go through the slide deck because I think all of you have
Thanks,
this.
Paul. You guys can go ahead and
all
take
of
it
you
away.
have this in your handout. But I just want to hit on a couple of high level things here. And I'll point to the slides and maybe you can go through those. But on slide 2, I think one of the key takeaways here is that OHA has a really broad mission in seeking to benefit the Native Hawaiian people through improvements in health, education, housing, and economic stability. And real estate is a tool that can drive some of these positive outcomes. But what we've done, because we've talked with some of you individually, is highlight that not every property serves all of these functions. Some properties might be able to provide resources to OHA to fund programs that are unrelated to real estate, and some real estate can actually drive some of these outcomes in specifically. And the goal I think for OHA is to achieve a balance at a portfolio level where you get these economic, cultural, environmental, and mission aligned outcomes rather than trying to have every property drive each of those outcomes. On slide 4, I think it's important to note that this is an investment land. Lot L is categorized as an investment land under the new HRE real estate strategy. And as an investment land, you kind of have these core principles, but the two that are really important are that we have to have a disciplined investment management approach, and we need to make decisions through due diligence and a business case that's aligned with the property. And so it's important for OHA to perform this due diligence. And I think as we go through this presentation, you'll see that we've actually accomplished that. The recent real estate policy that was approved also has 4 components, and that's identified on slide 5. So for investment lands, your key objectives are increasing financial returns, performance management and reporting, management of risk, and where possible, seek out non-economic returns, but do so in a way that doesn't dilute economic returns. So it's really OHA's responsibility, the Land Division's responsibility with respect to Lot L, is to create revenue streams that can support the organization, because this is an investment land. So the question is, how do we do that? And I think slide 6 is really a good slide for just kind of a general overview. The way that the Land Division looks at this property is Lot L, which is on the lower side next to the waterfront. It's isolated. It's separate from the bulk of OHA's land holdings, which are lots A, B, C, D, K, and G next to Keawe Basin. It has very poor access. It has influences that affect the development, and specifically its proximity to the harbor docking area, the foreign trade zone, as well as easements that affect access and also connectivity to the park. And given its isolation, one of the takeaways that the Land Division believes, and we concur, is that if there was going to be development in Kaka, this would be one of the last parcels that would be developed. There are also a number of restrictions that affect future uses that are imposed by zoning. The site zoned MUZ, which has a limited number of uses, predominantly the revenue generating uses are retail or office. And then there's also other uses that are allowed that are educational or cultural, but industrial is not an allowed use under the current zone. The current zoning also impacts the density. So if the site were vacant and available for redevelopment, you can only build to a 0.6 floor area ratio, which would be about 137,000 square feet of land area. The site is also impacted by its proximity to the ocean. And so there are sea level rise concerns that would require elevating the pad, as well as setback requirements, which would reduce the density that you could put onto the property. And so all of these components that I've highlighted just make development of this parcel, if it were vacant, challenging. So the question then is, in developing the business case, is what should OHA do with the parcel? Should OHA, is it in OHA's best interest to continue the current use, the industrial use that's on the site today, for an extended period of time? Or is there an alternate use that will generate a greater return, either in income or value, to OHA, such that OHA should do short-term leases in order to gain greater long-term value from the site? And this is really a highest and best use question, is if there's a use in the future that can generate greater returns, then OHA would want to hedge its bets and do short-term leases. But if redevelopment is so far off in the future, then what OHA should do is try to maximize the income off of the current uses. And so on slides 13 and 14, we tested this. And start with slide 13. We looked at the income that could be generated from the property as improved if we were to allow long-term leases. And in fact, there are tenants right now that are actively negotiating for the space at these kinds of rates. And what this analysis suggests is that the site could be worth, once it's leased, close to $40 million or $171 a land square foot. That's a really big price. We then looked on slide 14 at the alternative. And the alternative that made sense was a retail development, even though it's isolated, even though this wouldn't be the first site that you would develop, it's still, potentially that's the use that you would put on it, because you can't redevelop it with industrial. And office today is not really a feasible use in almost any market. And so we did a pro forma. This is a land residual technique. And as you can see, after going through the inputs, the land values are close to $5 a square foot. Now, I want to stop there. It doesn't mean your land is worth $5 a square foot, right? But this pro forma is a way to test whether you should keep the existing improvements or redevelop it. And the inputs are highly sensitive. But what it tells us is, at least at this, cursory level, you're so far from redevelopment relative to the values in place that it makes sound business decision to go long on the leases on Lot L and focus your redevelopment efforts closer to the Keawe Basin lands. And so that's the business case, and that's why we've recommended to the Land Division to execute long-term leases, and we just wanted to brief the ILM committee today on that.
Mahalo, Paul. Mahalo, Laurie, and the team. I know you guys worked hard on this and dive deep into these numbers. And so I think we can clearly see that it is a great recommendation. And as you guys move forward, thank you so much for briefing the board. Trustee Wahe, you have a question?
Thank you. Yeah, I was wondering, because I've been, people have been interested in leasing this property. Is there anybody, and because we have so many, different strategies and things like that, they think they qualify for, or whatever, they want to talk to someone from OHA instead of just directly to Colliers. And I'm wondering, we have a point person that represents from admin, hopefully, that we can direct them to, that can at least, just because we're a public agency, we should talk to them. But I don't want to have it where, because no one from OHA is talking to them, they go to trustees and try to advocate through that means, and then things can get, out of control that way. Who is our person I would direct them to that would be OHA?
You can direct them to me. Yeah.
Congratulations, Laurie. Thank you, Trustee Wahe, for your question. Members, if there are no other questions, I'm looking for a motion to adjourn this meeting. Motion made. You so moved to. It's not on fight at one. Motion made by Trustee Alapa, seconded by, I'm going to give it to Trustee Lindsay. Can I get a roll call vote, please?
Trustee Ahuna is excused. Trustee Kaka.
Aye.
Trustee Akina.
Aye.
Trustee Alapa. Trustee Galutaria. Chair Kahele.
Aye.
Trustee Lindsay. Vice Chair Waihe'e.
Yes.
Chair Souza.
Aye.